The control tower went silent. Every pilot on the frequency heard it. A woman's voice, calm and steady, using a call sign that made the veterans smirk and the rookies laugh out loud. Tower, this is Butterfly 1, requesting emergency priority landing. But what happened in the next 60 seconds will make those same pilots never forget her name. What city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe and follow for more stories about extraordinary people. Sarah Chen had heard every joke in the book. When she chose Butterfly as her call sign during her first year as a commercial pilot, the mockery was instant. Her flight instructor had raised an eyebrow. Her classmates had snickered. Even the examiner had paused before writing it down. "You sure about that, Chun? You know that's permanent, right?" She was sure. Because while everyone else saw something delicate and fragile, Sarah saw something different. She saw transformation. She saw something that traveled thousands of miles on wings that seemed impossibly thin. She saw resilience that most people never notice. 10 years later, Captain Sarah Chen was flying a Boeing 737 with 217 souls on board. Flight 447 from Seattle to Boston. It was supposed to be routine, the kind of flight she could do in her sleep. Clear skies, light winds, everything by the book. Until it wasn't. They were 38,000 feet over the Midwest when the first engine failed. Not sputtered, not coughed, just stopped. The cockpit lit up like a Christmas tree. Warning lights, alarms, and then 10 seconds later, the second engine began losing power. Her co-pilot, Marcus, an ex-military pilot with 15 years of experience, went pale. "Sarah, we're losing them both. This shouldn't be possible." But it was happening. A catastrophic fuel contamination that maintenance would later call a 1 in 10 million failure. 217 people, 38,000 feet. And in about 4 minutes, 2 very expensive gliders instead of engines. Sarah's hand didn't shake as she reached for the radio. Her voice didn't waver. "Tower, this is Butterfly 1, requesting emergency priority landing. Dual engine failure. 217 souls on board." The frequency went quiet. Then someone laughed. Just a short, nervous chuckle from another pilot who didn't know his mic was hot. Another voice muttered something about that Butterfly call sign. The tower controller, a 20-year veteran named Robert, recognized her immediately. He'd heard the jokes too, but he also knew her record. 0 incidents. Perfect safety rating. And now, the impossible situation. Butterfly 1 Tower. Closest airport is 37 miles northeast. Des Moines International. Can you make it? Sarah looked at her instruments. The engines were dying. Altitude dropping. She did the math in 3 seconds. Negative, Tower. I need closer. Anything with a runway. Marcus was running through emergency procedures, his hands moving fast, but his voice tight with fear. The cabin was still calm. The passengers didn't know yet, but they would soon. Butterfly 1, there's a regional airport 18 miles north. Single runway, 5,200 feet. It's tight for a 737. Sarah had landed on longer runways in perfect conditions and still used most of the pavement. This would be threading a needle. At night, with no engines. And if she came in too fast or too slow, if her angle was off by even 2 degrees, 217 people would die. I'll take it, she said, and then she did something that made Marcus stare at her. She closed her eyes for exactly 3 seconds. The cabin was filling with the sound of dying engines. The altitude alarm was screaming. And Sarah Chen took 3 seconds to breathe. When she opened her eyes, something had shifted. Marcus saw it. The tower heard it in her voice. Tower, Butterfly 1, I need you to clear that airport. Emergency vehicles. Phone the runway. And I need every pilot on this frequency to stay quiet unless you have traffic that affects my approach. Understood? Understood, Butterfly 1. The sky is yours. What happened next would be studied in flight schools for years. Sarah became the butterfly, not the delicate creature people imagined. The real thing. The monarch that flies 3,000 miles across continents. The painted lady that crosses oceans. The creature that navigates by instinct and precision, that rides invisible currents of air that other creatures can't even perceive. She felt the plane. Every shudder. Every drop. She knew exactly how much lift she had, how much speed she could bleed, how the wind would catch her wings. She called out instructions to Marcus in a voice so calm it was almost musical. Flaps 20. Gear down. Give me every checklist we have for unpowered landing. The passengers knew now. Flight attendants were shouting instructions. Someone was crying. But Sarah's voice came over the intercom, steady as stone. This is your captain. We're experiencing a mechanical issue, and we'll be making an emergency landing in approximately 4 minutes. Trust your flight attendants. Trust your training. And trust me. I've got you. The runway appeared in her windscreen. It looked impossibly small. A strip of concrete in an ocean of darkness. She was coming in steep, trading altitude for control, feeling the plane respond to her touch like it was part of her body. Butterfly 1. You're high and fast, the tower said, tension cracking through. I know, Sarah replied. Trust me. She dropped the nose. The ground rushed up. Marcus braced himself. And at the last possible second, Sarah pulled back, bleeding speed, letting the plane settle, feeling for that perfect moment when the wheels would kiss the runway instead of slamming into it. Touchdown was so smooth that several passengers later said they didn't realize they'd landed until they felt the brakes engage. Sarah stood on those brakes like her life depended on it. Because it did. The runway was disappearing under them. Emergency foam sprayed up on both sides. The end of the pavement was rushing toward them. The plane stopped with 43 feet of runway to spare. The cabin erupted in applause and tears. Marcus sat back in his seat, his hands shaking so hard he had to grip the armrests. Sarah calmly completed her shutdown checklist, her fingers steady, her breathing even. When they finally opened the cockpit door, the head flight attendant was crying. How did you do that? Sarah smiled, a small, quiet smile. I remembered why I chose my call sign. The story spread through the aviation community like wildfire. The investigation showed that Sarah had performed a landing that simulation experts said had less than a 5% success probability. She threaded an impossible needle in the dark with no engines and walked away with 0 injuries. No one laughed at the call sign butterfly anymore. Because they finally understood what Sarah had known all along. Butterflies aren't fragile. They're survivors. They're navigators. They transform the impossible into flight. And sometimes, the thing that makes people underestimate you is exactly what saves everyone's life. Sarah still flies today. Still uses the call sign Butterfly 1, and when new pilots ask her about it, she tells them this story. Then she tells them the real lesson. Choose your name for yourself. Not for what others think it means, but for what you know it means. Because one day you'll need to live up to it. And when that day comes, you want it to be something that reminds you who you really are. If this story gave your soul some relief today, hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments. What name would you choose for yourself? And subscribe for more stories that remind us all of the strength we carry inside. Until next time, keep flying.